Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. You guys are on the welding camera today. That means that the sound might be a little bit different because I don't have a microphone on. Hope you can live with that. I'm going to continue on the Abarth today. I have done some stuff off camera and let me just show you what I have done. As mentioned in a previous video, I got some help to create the inner structure in here. A good friend of the channel came by and welded for some hours and made this, and it's a massive help for me. I have been doing a little bit of stuff since that. I have been restoring or rebuilding this shock absorber mount. I've welded in this repair piece down here and made a top one also, so that is actually now solid. The panel behind it is not solid, but this one is very solid now. I also made this ledge right here and painted it with very thick paint. I also already made holes for spot welding, and I think this was a mistake. I think it would have been better to make the holes in the repair panel, because I will have to climb into the car to make these, to weld these on, or wait until it gets down from the Autobianchi. Anyway, it is now solid, and what I want to do is to create this panel that goes down here and up there. I always keep what I cut out if there's anything left, that is. And this is the thing that I'm going to recreate. It's completely rotted to pieces, so I'm going to recreate it. This spot up here got the nut for the seat belt. That material is already there, so I'm not going to make that now. But when I have fixed this panel, I will drill the hole and weld in the nut. So I'm going to try to make this panel to begin with. And firstly, I'm going to make the shape on a piece of metal and then cut that out and then work from that. I'm gonna do this a little different than what I normally do, because I'm not gonna make a template from the actual piece. I'm gonna use the piece as a template. So I'm just gonna straighten it out. And then leave extra material down here because I need to have this folded edge, which I'm gonna say is like this. And then just trace around the part. Yes, I don't need this part either. It's already on the car. I'm just going to leave some of that in. Like this. This is the part that I'm going to cut out. Yes, this is not the ideal thing because it's only supposed to cut straight, but the other one is not very strong. So it will work, just not perfectly. There's a bit in here. I'm going to use this because it can cut around it. This is just not very strong. There we go, that's the basic shape. And then I'm gonna go ahead and bend that edge, and then I can start to form it into place. There we go. That's the first edge done. The rest can be done in hand. So I'm getting pretty close to actually starting to weld this piece in. Cut a slot there to fit right there. Painted the rear where it joins together with the spot welds later on. And then this fits in like this. And I can weld it without any overlap because I like that when I can. And I'm gonna weld this in. So be back in a second when this one is welded in to the car. Could you tell me when the penetration feels right? Scratch that. So I couldn't reach the spot welds up here. We'll have to do that when the car's on the floor. No issues, so I need to go in and seam seal and all that in there anyway, so it's alright. I'm just going to grind this up a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy because it's not necessary. So this is the result. It's okay. I'm not totally happy with it because I couldn't really follow this line because I have had to do a lot of hammering in here to form it in. So it's not perfect in line with this up here. So I need to make sure that this entire corner will meet up somehow. So I think what I would need to do next is to take a look at this repair I need to make in here, and also the outer panel, before I make the outer part of the inner wheel arch that meets down here. I think that would be wise to do. But already now it's a lot more solid because now this is actually attached to this. That is attached with a couple of spot welds to the actual frame of the car. This is a massive upgrade now. The entire thing is not moving around when I touch it, which is a good thing, I presume. So after a better look at this, I'm really annoyed by the fact that this is dragged down this far now. I had to do a lot of hammering. That of course pulled everything down. This is supposed to actually meet up with this. But I'm not gonna do much about that. Okay, so I couldn't live with it anyway. But I don't want to completely redo it, so I have straightened out the edge. Now it fits the line going down there. I just followed the joint line in that, and now it fits down on this corner right there. And then I'm just gonna weld this edge on like this. Yep, I could just weld the two pieces together right here and ignore the fact and ignore the flange, because the flange is just there for spot welding or pinch welding by machine. But yeah, I'm just gonna do it like this. Then it's as close to original as possible. So I welded on the new edge, made sure that it is in line. As far as I can see how this is supposed to go back together, which is hard to know when everything is gone to begin with. But this ledge should be corresponding to this ledge. So when I put this straight ruler underneath here and follow the line, it should hit that one, and it does. So this is great. And the next panel is this in here, and then this closing in the end. This one I decided to do a overlap on, painted on the rear, because it will be way easier, stronger and faster. So this goes up like this, and then this will be welded onto this. This is actually supposed to continue up like this for the outer skin of the inner wheel arch. I will just weld that on the inside to create it into one piece. So this is what's gonna be welded in now. This will be hammered down, and then a couple of spot welds to this inner part. I will weld that in. So this is it. This panel is in, and it's very, very hot still. Might dress up the welds a little bit better, but yeah, it is what it is. Next up is this part right here, this corner part, the outer part of the inner wheel arch. That needs to be correct size, of course. This panel up here is a repair panel for the outer wing. I actually also have this, which have the same shape down there, and I might use this also because that will cover up this part of it. But this one will now just go down like this and indicate where it is supposed to end up. I don't really know how this corner is supposed to look, actually, to be honest, if it needs to be cut away or if it can look like this, I don't know. But I will clamp this in place, then I have something to go from. Of course it will lower down the inch of the material, so I will need to make the piece I put in 0.9 millimeters smaller than it looks like it has to be, but yeah, I think you get the point. This looks kind of alright. This is the piece. So now I need to make this, and I'm not going to make the edge going in there, I'm just going to weld on the back side. So just need to make something that goes up like this and then have this shape up here, which is going to be the difficult part. This is the bend line that I'd like to make. I'm gonna try to make this in a piece of metal. I really doubt this will work the first time because it needs to meet so many angles. But I made the metal piece. I will now try to bend it using the hammer. Right there. But it needs to bend all the way around to almost this degree. Need to bend the next step of this also. Getting there. I thought that it would be too complicated to just make this piece and then weld this piece on afterwards, but now that I'm standing with it, I think it would have been much easier to make the bend that joins together with the outer wheel arch, bend that in, shrink that in this so I get the correct curvature, and then weld another piece onto that that connects to the rest. But now that I have started to try to make it in one piece, I'm just going to continue for a bit more and see if I can make it work maybe. Now I'm actually getting the right shape now. I'm just going to go check on the car. Maybe it will work. It's almost the correct shape now. I'm just going to roll this around again. Probably just using pliers. I think this will do, and I think what I'm gonna do is to attempt to go in and tack weld it in place somehow. Maybe just here and then cut it off afterwards when I get it to sit right. I also need to remember that this part goes down a bit when I cut it into place, so I need to make room for that. But there's plenty of room to clamp these two parts together. I'm happy with it now. Just going to show you on this other repair panel that I have that it now fits pretty well in here and can be clamped together and spot welded later on. I'm not going to call it perfect, but this is very difficult for me to make, I gotta say. Let's push this in here and then just to attempt to spot weld it in place to begin with, so I can weld it on the back side once it feels correct. So this will be cut away, but I think I can now start the welding on the rear of it to get it into... it did move quite a lot. Gonna give it a couple of more welds. I think that I can remove this now without it moving too much, like so, and then attempt to weld the pieces together from the rear. I don't know if I really have explained what I'm trying to do, but trying to weld the two pieces, this and this, together, and then cut this piece away afterwards. I need some light for that. And then I can just cut this line right there to begin with. Maybe do that from out here actually to get the correct shape. can weld the two pieces together. It is a bit like building in clay, just with metal, and it's a bit difficult. So I'm gonna start to do a lot of grinding to make this a little bit more pretty. Yep, it is a bit of a Frankenstein repair, and this was very difficult to make. But I think once it's all grinded up and seam sealed, it will be alright. And the most important bit is that I think this panel eventually will fit this. Not right now though, or at least I can shape it. Forcefully, because it's actually connected to something. Remember, this panel goes down further once I cut the old material out, so it will actually be a very nice fit now. So this is going to be all for today. This is repaired. This is repaired. This in here is repaired. I actually would like to close up this part also with a repair panel, but I want to paint this really good and get it sealed and all that before closing this panel in, because it will be difficult to get to that later on. And I can really understand why it will rust here because of the construction. It's not very great. This is how it turned out on the rear. It's not pretty welds, but it is sticking together very nicely. So the rest of the inner wheel arch, at least this, the top part, I still need to figure out what to do about that. I will probably do that from the inside. But this one seems to be quite healthy up until this point. So I think I can be lucky to make a long piece that I bend and then shrink until I get the correct shape. And then actually can make the entire piece all the way up back to here in one piece and weld that in. And I'm going to remove as little as possible before cutting this out, because it's the only real guide I get that I have. Of course, it's quite pliable, but yeah, it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but it is solid metal. All of this was gone before, pretty much, so that's nice. I still need to make the hole for the seat belt. We'll do that another time. I also have to weld on the brake lines, bracket and all that. There's a lot of stuff to do, but now I'm going to paint that, and then next time on the Abarth I will close up that panel, I think, and do the rest of the inner wheel arch. I'm gonna paint this up and then continue on this another day. So thank you for watching. Don't forget you can support me. There's a Patreon link down below. It means a lot to me. The more support I get, the more videos I will be able to make. And unless something changes, I might have to make some changes to the channel. Nothing major. I'm just gonna probably make a little bit less content in the future, because I will have to make more money to make this show go around. This will never become a good business, I think, but I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy making these videos, and I will do my best to continue to do so. So the worst that can happen, I think, will be a lot less content, and as it stands right now, that probably is gonna happen at least for a while. But if you like this stuff that I'm doing, please consider becoming a Patreon. It helps me out a lot. And see you in the next one. That's the first layer done. That's all for tonight, folks.